What's up, everybody? It's Tim Coolig with the Tim Coolig Free Music Podcast. Look, I haven't done one of these in a while. I've been really busy throwing Tom on the podcast and having guests and stuff. So I thought it was time to do an update that's just me and give you some ideas of what's going on the first quarter of the year, as well as what's to come and just kind of where I'm at. So first and foremost, distribution change. So I was using DistroKid for the last 4 or 5 years, I think. And if anybody doesn't understand what that is, that's a self-guided platform, basically, where you can self-publish your music. Pretty inexpensive, for less than $100 a year. You can publish an unlimited amount of music and have multiple artists on that platform via your distribution path. And it was pretty simple. But there were some limitations. One of the things that was limiting about it was they didn't have a lot of hands-on customer service. It was kind of just an empty hole of chatbots and emails that kind of go nowhere. And recently I found out that they were going to get bought out, or they were on the market to be bought out, and they were doing an evaluation, which is never good, because if some conglomerate picks them up and decides to make that process even harder, it's just not a way to go when you're trying to manage your own catalog and your music and everything. So it was a good time to make a change. And I picked a company called Frequency Digital, and they are fantastic. They're based out of Amsterdam, and they actually distribute music to almost 3 times as many of the digital service providers that DistroKid did, including some really cool stuff like Canva. So apparently my music is going to be in Canva now. So if you're a content creator that uses the Canva platform to make your stuff, my music will be embedded in there. So it'll make things easier when you're going to do stuff, because you can just literally pull it from their music catalog in there. My stuff will be part of it. And hopefully this will also solve the problems that I and some other royalty-free music producers like Kevin MacLeod and Alexander Nakarada and anybody else that does royalty-free music distribution have been having on Spotify. And that is the challenge of having music in a podcast and not getting it flagged for copyright infringement. For whatever reason, about 18 months ago, Spotify changed something about their systems and their algorithms in the background, and it suddenly started to adversely affect podcasts and music in podcasts. I'm not really sure what it was. What my speculation is that somebody or somebody's, multiple groups were using the podcast platform as a way to distribute music and basically like set up like radio stations and stuff like that. And the platform just didn't care for that, because they can't really determine where they're supposed to be paying royalties or whether it's a rights issue. And it gets much more complicated on the platform. And a lot of this is speculation, but it makes sense if they were starting to get a bunch of people complaining that people were unauthorized using music. Because I'm sure, as far as I'm concerned, any podcast can use my music. I have no problem with it whatsoever. I don't even care if I'm getting paid for it. But somebody big that has a huge production company behind them is probably not into that, especially if the podcast has some visibility. So that's a situation that needs to be navigated and addressed. And these folks at Frequency are fully committed to help us try to find a path so that podcasters can use music on it, or our music on it, with confidence, knowing that they're not going to have episodes pulled. Because that's the thing that was happening. People's episodes are just getting pulled with no notice. And we're talking like, in some cases, dozens of episodes, and from years ago. So, it's one thing if you post something and then you get a copyright flag or you get an issue come up. It's another if you've had work and production that's been up there for years, and then suddenly the system flags it as a problem and creating a problem. And it's really frustrating to end users of music and producers of podcasts. And we're trying to find a solution for that. This company is our best bet in making that a reality. So fingers crossed, we're going to get this problem solved, because I don't like problems like this, especially when, I'd gotten rid of the paywall up front for this purpose alone. So let's make it work. Now, in relation to music, I just produced my first album of the year. Now, it's going to sound crazy because on socials, I've been releasing albums and doing stuff, but I had a plan last year. I had this mad dash in the fourth quarter last year where I ended up writing a bunch of stuff and publishing a bunch of stuff, and it was so much in such a small, like, isolated part of time that I realized, like, I have several albums that I just can't release because I like to release one or two a month so that people can absorb them, check them out, decide if they're going to use them. And then if I release too much music too fast, some stuff just gets lost in the shuffle. So I had like 5 or 6 albums, and I still have a couple. I have one album left from last year and a couple singles that I'm going to be releasing in the next couple weeks. And I just published my first album for this year now because I finally got some of that creativity and creative juices flowing again. Last year was big. I mean, I probably said that on a couple other podcasts, but I published 275 tracks last year. It's practically a track a day. So it was a busy year. It was a very busy year. This first one is an homage to the game Arc Raiders. It's a extraction shooter that's on consoles and it's on computers and stuff. And I didn't even like it in the beginning, to be honest. But there was something compelling about the music. It's very minimalist and very almost meditative, but at the same time, it's got some energy and some movement and some emotion to it. And I got so used to the music and so interested in it, and it's so immersive when you're playing the game that I just said, I'm going to do a few tracks in this genre, because I had a couple of software VSTs that kind of played to the patches that I heard in the game. So I started playing around with a couple of ideas. 3, 4, 5 ideas later, I'm like, I think I can make an album out of this. So spent the last few weeks making more tracks, refining, honing them, mastering them, and finally just yesterday uploaded. That was the first new album uploaded to my new distributor, Frequency Digital, and it's in the process of being sent to stores and everything. And once I see it pop up on Spotify and Apple Music and all the other places, it's going to be something I'm going to make available probably mid-month April. It'll be available like second or third week. So it'll be up on the website and everywhere else you can download it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hope you enjoy it. Some people that have heard it already really enjoy it. So also, I have a series of meditations coming out again this year. I'm specifically going to be playing around with, I don't think I have the book in here, but I had a book in here. This one's from Olivia that talks about vibrational sound therapy. And the idea I got from here are various tones and healing frequencies that I'm going to incorporate into some meditation patches, in addition to what's called Savaggio frequencies. They deal with chakras and all that jazz. If you're into that kind of healing and vibration, I mean, honestly, the whole universe and everything about what we are and everything around us is about vibration. So it's kind of near and dear to my heart, and it's something I've wanted to delve into on more of a methodical, mathematical, scientific way for a long time, instead of just kind of throwing darts at a wall. And as to how meditation works and how meditation music and calming works, I kind of want to look at it from a scientific perspective and build things based on tonalities and build music around a tone so that it effectuates what the tone is supposed to do. So I'm kind of excited about that. And it's an endeavor it's not a road I've gone down before. And there will probably be multiple compilations with multiple focuses. I haven't landed on what the focuses are going to be yet. I've also been asked to do surf rock, which I've never done before. And I listened to some tracks and it reminded me of like the B-52s and some stuff from like old Quentin Tarantino movies. You know, just it's like back in the 60s, and it's very airy single note guitar lines and kind of what's some of the like heavy reverb, and I think what's the Leslie speakers. If you don't know what those are, back in the day, they like back in the 50s and 60s, they had these they still have them today, but they're just not as popular. They had these speakers called Leslie speakers, and the actual speaker itself would rotate, and it created this crazy like chorused but like wobbly sound and very, very unique to the time, very unique to the music of the time. But the guitar has some of that affected on it and everything. And like horn section, that very airy and just really interesting instrumentation. And I'm actually looking very forward to it. It's an exploration I've never done before, and it sounds like a lot of fun. Also, Kelly Clark has asked me to attempt to do some Warhammer 40K marches, which is, I don't want to call it a big ass, Kelly, but I hope I meet the challenge because some of that music is pretty intense and pretty heavily orchestrated. I'm probably going to do some modern flair stuff. And I actually have one piece from the Arc Raiders album that I got to send to you because it may be effective in what you're looking for. As usual, I'm going to have horror, some other orchestral stuff, and I'm actually delving into punk. Now, not punk in the sense of like the Sex Pistols or the Ramones, that kind of punk. I'm talking punk as is defined as literally just something completely novel music. Finding patches and finding a way to make something that's never been made before that doesn't sound like a style. Like that's going to be a long form, like full. I kicked my cat underneath the underneath my desk. I didn't realize he was there. I was like, "Oh, sorry, buddy." Something that's never been heard before, but off enough that when you hear it, when I release it, you're gonna be like, dude, this, I can't even isolate what style this is. That's going to take longer because I think that is going to require like a disconnect from all the normal modes and everything else that I jump into when I write music. So that's going to be, I mean, that's the super challenge for this year. I mean, that makes the Warhammer 40K marches seem paltry in comparison, because coming up with brand new music and a brand new style, like that's huge. So we'll see how that goes. I've also started down a path of a new health and well-being path. Now, I've talked in the past, like I've literally been on the podcast with like my running shirts from my, half marathons and 10Ks and stuff like that. And I've done less running in the last year and a half, done more walking. But I realized that, as we age, kind of need to do strength training. And it's always been something I've been averse to. I get into it for a little bit, and then I'm just not disciplined about it. And you'd think me, who sits down and writes 275 tracks in a year, would be disciplined about everything. Well, that happens to be one of those things that I'm like, no, thank you. I would rather sit on the couch and watch cartoons or something, or play video games than do that. Well, I made a commitment to myself about a month ago and rejoined a gym. It's not like the cost of some gyms around, even the 24-hour ones are very expensive. For $20 a month, you can get all this great stuff, And so I just said, the hell with it. I'm doing it. And 2 days a week, get your tail in there and do the thing. So I've been pretty good about it. Since the 10th of this month, I've gone in at least 2 days a week and do various parts. One day it's chest and back, another day is biceps, tries, and shoulders, another days it's legs, and then I still do walking. And recently, on a couple my long walks, I ended up doing some sprints. So like my body wants to run again, and I'm feeling better. I'm feeling stronger, and we'll see. We'll see. I'm saying we'll see. I'm going to keep doing this because I want to be mobile for the rest of my life. And I know that if I don't go and do like maintenance on the machine, then, all this is for nothing. What's the point? I don't want to be miserable or unhealthy or what have you. And this requires maintenance, to be able to keep doing this and keep providing value. I got to maintain the machine, man. So did that. I mean, like, you'd probably hear me. I'm a little stuffy. I'm suffering from some serious seasonal allergies down here in Florida. A lot of the trees are popping. It hasn't rained. God damn it. We need rain desperately. You'd think being on a peninsula surrounded on three sides by water, we'd be inundated with rain all the time. The winters are surprisingly dry down here. And to the point where like we have like, heavy like red fire warnings and stuff like that. But hopefully in the next couple of weeks it'll start picking up because it'll dampen down some of this pollen and just clear out my sinuses. It's so awful. So, but But yeah, this whole like revitalization and going back into the gym and doing stuff like that, it's all about having the energy to do the things that I need to do this year and beyond. So, I want to make sure that, you know, I'm around for a while. So as much as I can control that. If you've noticed on socials, I've been doing a lot of brand building. There's a lot of posts. There's a lot of content since December. That's thanks to Liz, my social media manager, who's been pumping out a bunch of videos. We're doing a bunch of videos on legacy music. So we're doing legacy videos that accentuate older songs or even songs of albums I just released in the fourth quarter last year. But it's all about giving it eyes and ears. You can put up a website and tell people you got 1,000 songs, but if they don't see content, they don't see your name popping up all the time, they don't know what you do, and they're not just going to go in there and do stuff. But if you release 15 to 30-second clips that, highlight the parts of your songs that, I resonated with, so I hope that the audience does too, gives people an idea of the breadth of, the catalog itself, like all the different styles that I do. So that seems to be working out really well. I'm getting some traction on that. I'm getting some momentum on socials as far as, new follows, more people interested in my stuff, people reaching out to be on the podcast, that kind of thing. So that's been working out really, really good. And we've also experimenting with some stuff. I'm doing these little clips that remind me of from Cartoon Network Adult Swim, where it just says TKFM, and it's a video. It's like a AI generated video with a strange song of mine juxtaposed against it. Could be like ducks, and there's like a metal tune running in the background. You know what I mean? Like something like that. That's atypical of these like intermezzos, I'd call them, on Adult Swim. They have this little spot that they have to fill in, that they don't have enough time for a commercial, but they just need this little bumper. And I was like, let's do some of those. Those always interested me. I was always like, those are really neat. And maybe that would be cool to do that with my music. So I've done a bunch of those. So if you see anything that says the TKFM on the top, Tim Kulik Free Music, it's just a little thing, just a little quick little intermezzo, little bumper. Those have been fun. Also been experimenting with some advertising, some like platform-based advertising to drive traffic to the website, drive traffic to the channel itself, and just build community. I've built a Discord community too, and we've been promoting that as well as another place for people to come request song types, song genre types, feedback on songs and albums, that kind of thing. So that's something we're going to work on building throughout the course of this year. We'll hopefully have a few hundred subscribers on there that are regularly interacting with stuff, and I'll probably do some live streams there as well. That's another thing. I haven't gotten to that yet, but I'm planning on doing some live streaming this year, and hopefully second quarter, but I'm shooting for third probably. I've got to get some other things in line before I can commit to like a regular like Thursday night or Friday night or something where I go on and do Q&As or show people my process live, that kind of thing. It'd be interesting to get some feedback to see what people would like to see. But doing that, experimenting, and then collaborations too. But that pushes more into collaborations in the sense of reaching out to different content creators on YouTube and Facebook and just looking to see if any of my music genres align with their brand and their content, and seeing if we do a partnership and just work together and offer that, the way I offer it, which is free to use with attribution, and just see if it makes sense. That's been really good too. We've gotten some positive feedback so far with some of that outreach. A lot of stuff going on. A lot of stuff going on. And the podcast has hit 100+ episodes. One thing that's kind of kicked that into, fifth gear is I've started doing these things called quick hits. I know my shows go long sometimes, and it's because honestly, I do the show for myself first, genuinely interested in the people that I have on as guests, or when I'm doing this kind of thing with by myself or with Tom Seymour, when we're doing updates, we do back and forth and we just kind of share with the community what's going on. It's a lot of fun to do. And for some people, I realize it's something they're going to scrub through and they're going to get to the things, they're going to get to the meat and potatoes that they want to listen to, and that's it. But I realized that, using the platform Riverside that I do, it allows me to do short form content, which people get these little snippets and they see that on socials, 60 seconds or less. And that's enough for some people. And then, I have a group of people that watch the full episodes, but I was thinking like, okay, well, what about a section, right? A section that goes like anywhere from 3 to 7 minutes long, but we cover like a specific topic, and maybe people are more inclined to come in for that subsection where you're talking about that. So I started producing those, and I've gotten some good feedback on those. Those kind of stay on point for that short little snippet, and it adds to the podcast in the sense that I've got more than one episode coming out a week. So now some days it releases one of those short ones, and then every Thursday you get the full length podcast. So I think I'm going to do that for like the majority of this year. I may mess around with the podcast length and isolate it down to 30 minutes, somewhere around there. But I'm not quite there yet, because if I do these quick hit ones, it feels like it's going to satisfy the needs that people have for shorter content. If they want to watch short form content, the vertical format, or the quick hits, that's going to satisfy people that don't want to sit in for the whole episode, and then still provide that whole episode if somebody wants to hang out and just listen to the whole thing. I mean, it's video based. You don't have to watch it. You could just listen to it. So I do it that way now, purposefully. If you want to see the interaction and see the, the body language and everything when you're talking, some people are into that, and some people just want to listen to it, and they just want to listen to the person's voice and what I'm talking about. They get it from that. So, but I definitely very excited about that, because the numbers on Podbean are going up, the numbers on YouTube are going up, the numbers on the various platforms that it streams to and publishes to are going up. This year, I feel like the podcast is really kind of growing into its own, and I'm excited about that. And I have several guests lined up. I've already done numerous interviews this year, and I have, I think, the better part of 10 between now and the middle of May. So buck up. There's a lot of talk, a lot of interview, like a lot of interesting people to talk to, a lot of really fun conversations to be had coming down the pipeline, as well as updates from me and Tom. I mean, I haven't gotten here yet. I'm jumping ahead of myself. I got my notes to my right, but between me and Tom and myself, in addition to this, like today, there's going to be a lot more content in the podcast space. And I'm excited to see the response to all that. Lots to do. But with movies, coming back to that and talking about Tom, Video Dreams has now beat everything we've done so far as wins. It has 24 official wins so far in the festival run, and over 40 official selections. Fantastic festival run so far. We still have like 15 to 20 festivals to hear back from, and it goes till I think it goes through August, and the majority of them we're going to hear about through May or June, and there's a couple other ones that trickle in later in the year. But we're very, very happy with this film, and Tom and I are going to talk late summer, early fall on what the next step is with that film, because with American Expendables, we did a physical release, and it was kind of a 1-2 punch. We did a physical release that lasted 3 to 6 months, and then it went to streaming. You can watch that on Tubi and various other streaming platforms. So we're excited to be able to take that next step with Video Dreams, and we've got a project behind it that's still in production. We chat about it here and there. I don't like to talk about it too much, but it's really coming together, and we've done a few interviews for it, and we found a path to a narrative on it now that I think is pretty solid. And I am very confident that by the end of the year, early part of next year, we'll be looking at some kind of rough cut that we're going to be refining and honing and getting ready for the same scenario, getting it into the festival run, just like Video Dreams. And, that's the thing about doing these movies. You can't just focus on one thing at a time. Once we have something in a festival and doing a festival run, if that's all we focused on, we would lose all this ground and all this time of exploring what the next story we want to tell is. And with documentary, it's real difficult because it's a lot of back and forth and a lot of chit chat to figure out what we want to talk about next and what's going to excite us, and acting on your highest excitement with that. So it's so important to have that as a catalyst for the next project, so that you're excited about the festival run, you're excited about the research and the interviews and everything else that you're doing for the project that you're exploring. Not all of them go anywhere, by the way. We've done some exploration and some stuff in the past that just ended up being some podcast episodes, and we just kind of left it by the wayside. We're like, there's not enough meat on the bone. It's been done. Or, once you go down a rabbit hole for a little bit, you find that a bunch of other people have talked about this, and maybe they did a good enough job. Once you take a look at it, and you're like, let's talk about something else. Let's explore something else that's a little more obscure and maybe hasn't gotten the attention it deserves. Tom and I are huge in nostalgia, huge into the little guy, being independent filmmakers, being an independent musician. I like the underdog scenario. I like looking at the potential of some obscure thing and taking it to a level and getting an audience for that. It's just there's so many mainstream things and tropes that are just rehashed over and over and over again. Hollywood's littered with IP that's, intellectual property that's rehashed and redone over and over and over again. And to have a novel idea and story is just something that we strive for. So I can't wait to talk to you about that. I can't wait to talk about that finished product and let you know that it's going into the festival circuit and everything. But when the time is right, we will, for sure. And that's basically it today. I just wanted to catch up everybody on, the status of Tim Kulig Free Music and the projects that are going on this year. And, start seeing some new albums for this year being produced over the course of the next couple of months. I've still got, 100, 150 projects on my hard drive that are potentials for albums as well. So between hashing that out, some of these new things, and all my near and dear genres that I do, as well as exploring novel ideas, novel music ideas, it's going to be an exciting and busy year. So stay tuned, and thanks for checking in. We'll talk to you again real soon.